we're going to be working on Seizonjutsu for those of you behind the camera. Seizonjutsu is the ancient Japanese martial art of survival training, particularly taught to the samurai and the ninja, or shinobi. In many cases, monomi, which monomi in Japanese at the time was scouts. It was their job to go out and scout the land, live off the land, and take people from one prefecture to another because they knew the land, okay? So in Japanese martial arts, we tend to really focus on like samurai and ninja, but there were other jobs in that time period too. And without doubt, monomi was one of those jobs, or being a scout or a survivalist, that samurai and ninja both utilized to help them get from one area to another. And to be quite honest, monomi jutsu was a specific skill set also taught within the ninjutsu curriculum so that they knew how to get from one area to another. We've talked about it many times. Back then they didn't have cars and all that, so you can't walk on the beaten path if you're a spy, so you got to be off the beaten path, surviving to get from A to B, right? Today we will be working on a couple different skill sets. The goal today, I want to practice making a bird's nest, which is basically a specific type of tinder bundle. I want to work on char cloth, which is next fire, the idea, or the mindset of the next fire. We'll talk about that. And I want to work on showing you guys the basics on how to make an arrow. I've told you guys a million times, I don't think it's not smart if we ever run into a survival situation to go grab your guns and then shooting all the rounds of ammunition you have at the rabbits and the squirrels. Because if shit hits the fan here in Kansas City and everyone's struggling to fight for the same damn rabbit, you're going to need those bullets for home protection. You don't want to be shooting off your rounds trying to catch the damn squirrel running around your backyard. You know what I mean? And if someone else hears you shooting a fucking gun, they're going to be like, oh, there's some food over there. Well, here they come too. And so from a survival perspective, the bow and arrow, in Japanese it's yumi and ya, or kyujutsu is the art of archery, whichever words people tend to like to use on that. To me is very important aspect to survival is using the bow and arrow. So today we'll be looking at how to make a traditional traditional arrow, okay? So let's go back to step one. We're going to be making a bird's nest. What is that? When you guys create a fire, you guys know that there's steps in the process to create a fire from a primitive perspective. First, you got to find tinder. You know what I mean? You have to find something that's combustible that you guys can create a spark, a flame, get an ember going or something. But once you get that, you have to connect that to tinder. Tinder is something like hair. It's something very fine, like we've even used, what is that, dryer lint. You guys know what tinder is. I'm trying to be more information to the camera here, but you want to be able to take your spark to the tinder. The tinder will only catch a flame for a very short amount of time. That tinder has to then be transferred with kindling. Kindling are like very small sticks, size of pencils or smaller, right? Then you take that, you grow that into small fuel, which would be like regular sticks. And then that goes into actual fuel, which is where you start adding on logs or adding on pieces of wood. A bird's nest is a type of tinder bundle. I also think it's one of the more advanced versions of a tinder bundle, which is why I think we need to be practicing it more than, say, just grab a bunch of tinder, dry leaves, and whatever, crumble it all up, make a little pile, and then start scratching using a ferro rod or a magnesium striker in the crash of fire. That's a very easy 1, 2, 3 version. But the reality of it is, creating a bird's nest is for a reason. No matter, we live in Kansas, that's where we're being shipped here. When the wind is going or whatever it is, you got wind, you got elemental aspects going on. When you have that, a bird's nest should look like a bowl. It should be the size of a bowl, a cereal bowl. The reason you have this bowl is when you put the tinder inside the bowl, if there is wind, it'll cut down the wind so that you can put the spark on the tinder to create the fire. And when you have to deal with elements, and elements not giving you the perfect situation, that's why the bird's nest is so important, is to make that bird's nest. So when you do that, don't just go get a bunch of leaves, dry leaves, pine needles, and all this shit and make a clump. You're not doing today's assignment. You will need, think of like vines, something that's very pliable that you can bend, and you're going to take it and wrap it and tie it, and then wrap it and tie it, where you get basically a skeleton. And then from there you'll put big leaves on the inside of that, and then from there more dead stuff, and you pack it to create that little bowl. Okay? And I think that's a very important thing to work on, because it helps increase the chances of creating fire. If you just go get dead shit thrown on the ground, depending on the elements, the time of year, the moisture in the air, which right now it's really high, it's been raining, all these other kind of things, just throwing the dead shit on the ground might not do it for you. So what we want to do is create a skill set to be able to increase the chances of actually creating fire. Making a bird's nest is something that we should be doing, everyone should be doing, multiple times a year. The winter, the spring, summer, fall, all that kind of stuff. Because the elements will change as the season changes, right? So I think it's important that we do practice that skill set. That's one. Number two, you need to get enough materials to create 2 birds' nests, because we will be doing char cloth, right? And I'm not going to get into that aspect with this, and then the arrows. So while you guys are going to go and get the materials for your bird's nests, right? So you guys can create that. I'm going to get everything else ready for the second stage of you guys' training. Okay? All right, so click that. Okay, so right now the students have left and they're on their way to the park so they can get materials to make the bird's nest. We will be making the bird's nest here at the Hambu, and we'll be striking the fires in the back here at the Hambu. But they work with the materials and the plant and the foliage that we have here so much. I want them to go to a different terrain to get different types of plants, different types of trees, different types of, foliage, because here they already know the plants in the area. They know, oh, I can use that, I can use that, that's really flammable, etc., etc. We have a big pine tree in the front, and as you guys know, pine is extremely flammable, especially with pine resin. So I'm forcing them to go to a different area to use the foliage and the plants and all that kind of stuff there. So they're going off to get their materials to create their bird's nest and to get the tinder and all that kind of stuff, and then they're going to be coming back here and they'll create the bird's nest and they'll start working on creating fire. I do want to say... All right, so now what we're going to do is we've created the bird's nest here. Notice I've got a good foundation all the way around it in case there's wind. Right, so we've got all the tinder and everything on the inside. You're going to put your ferro rod in there. Hopefully we can get a fire going here. There we go. There we go. There's the fire, just like that. So now it's your guys' turn to affect the fire using same materials. Sound good?
Right.
Yep.
Alrighty. There you go. Good job to pray, huh?
Look, it's like, I don't want to catch the grass.
So now that we have all effectively created a bird's nest and made fire, now we're going to get a fire going in the pit. And it's time to work on creating some char cloth.